From the Ticats Audio Network, this is the Ticats This Week with RJ Broadhead and Luke Tasker.
The Tiger Cats have 3 games to go in the regular season. They are in the playoffs. Great to have you on Ticats This Week. I'm RJ Broadhead along with Luke Tasker. Can't wait to call this game on Saturday in Saskatchewan, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. So it's a good start time for the Eastern Time Zone. Luke, what a difference making the playoffs. It's been, not the easy way again for the Tiger Cats, but they're in, and that's all that matters.
Yep, absolutely. And we had our excitement this season for sure, and we have more to come. But for these next 3 weeks, you at least have that guaranteed, and it definitely feels good for fans, for you and I, RJ, as a player. Certainly, that feels great, and you can kind of take a breath here. And of course, and we'll talk about, there's still some things to be gained by these 3 matchups to be played in the regular season. But you're going to have a chance to make a run at the Grey Cup.
Luke, I'm a little disappointed. We've been together 3 years calling the Tiger Cats games. This is the first year we didn't get into the must-win discususn. They did it.
That's true.
They got in before it was desperate.
Yep, that's right. We'll have some must wins though in about 4 weeks from now. We'll certainly have a must win. Yeah,
and we can shift that focus to a home playoff game. Big news though. Want to talk about Bo Levi Mitchell is back. He's going to be the starting quarterback. What a change in 3 weeks. Taylor Powell carried the load for a long time. Matt Schultz came in, looked great in the last game. Now Bo's healthy. And now Taylor Powell, a little bit banged up. He'll be on the 1-game injured list for this game. But Bo Levi Mitchell, it's a great chance to see him again. His 4th start of the season comes in the 3rd last game. How do you feel about Bo getting some game action before the playoffs?
My first thought is what a great opportunity this is with the positioning of the playoff scenario. So Bo has a chance to come in. There's not nothing to be, you don't have nothing to lose. There is still the thought, there is still the race for the home playoff win, which Montreal has the upper hand in that battle. But if the Ticats win this week, that's still a possibility for them. So you still have that in hand, or that possibility is still out there, but you've got the playoffs locked up, and Bo has 3 weeks now to come in and get back into it, because it's not an automatic thing. That's a lot of weeks to miss. That's a lot of football to be on the sidelines for when everyone else in this league is, you're battle hardened this far into the season. It is, you've probably got your injuries that you're dealing with, but man, you're game ready and you're ready to go into this playoff stretch where Bo is effectively, he's at preseason phase right now. Not only in just the flow of the season, but even his injury, just being back and being fully confident from that. So sort of a freebie here to get some play time before the playoffs. I don't know, RJ. I also wouldn't be surprised if we see Matt Schultz again this week too, and if they trade some time, maybe in part to not force Bo to play all 4 quarters, and just the idea that Matt Schultz may have to play a part in the playoff run as well. So a lot of things up in the air, but what a gift to the Ticats to have 3 weeks to sort of, in a sense, play around with it. Depends how they see that in the reality of a home playoff win and how much they want to, risk that or to experiment a little bit, but we'll see. And I think total net positive here for the Ticats. They get an opportunity to take a breath and test Bo Levi Mitchell out.
Yeah, I was wondering if Matt Schultz would see some action or if they'd split the game. So that'll be interesting to see what happens in Regina when they play the Roughriders on Saturday. Kyle Loxley has really... They've got 4 quarterbacks now, and Loxley really has a niche role on the team. He's so big and strong. He's, I hate to say automatic, but pretty close to in short yardage. We've seen him as a receiver. He can catch, he can run. We saw him on the onside kick on the hands team. He saved that game against Calgary. He does a lot of things, so it'll be interesting down the road to see what the Tiger Cats do as far as the lineup. They really have 4 quarterbacks they could dress who all can be effective in their own way, and probably a good problem to have rather than trying to salvage one quarterback with a bunch of injuries and fine guys. So now they've got some choices.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember asking Coach O in the Coach O show weeks ago when Matt Schultz and Bo Levi Mitchell were not even close to being back into the lineup, kind of the potential of with Taylor Powell starting to play well, which he did throughout, when he took over. What do you do when they all come back? And he said the same thing you just reiterated, that it's a good problem to have. We'll figure that out when the time comes. And so it goes back to the first part of our conversation here that, before in Bo Levi Mitchell's starts early this season, it was not perfect. There was in the game that he had to leave for the majority of the season, where he got injured in Ottawa. That was a 5-interception game that the Ticats won, but it was not perfect. And so you have some time to play around with some things right now, and to get him back in and feeling comfortable. So, we'll see. I don't think hopefully Taylor Powell's health is something he can come back from quickly. But when you have 4 quarterbacks, not all of them are going to be out there every week. Yeah,
it's good. They've clinched a playoff spot. They can work on this quarterback situation, see where Bo's at, and the way the schedule. You kind of touched on it, Luke, about the home playoff game, but really, it's fascinating when you look back at a season and how important the final games are on the schedule. You look at it at the start and okay, play Montreal in the final regular season game. Might not mean anything. It actually could mean a ton. So, of course, Hamilton's in Regina playing the Roughriders on Saturday. Montreal hosts Ottawa, and they've been successful against Ottawa, so we'll see what happens there. Then, next week, BC is in Hamilton, and Montreal travels to Edmonton. And then both Montreal and Hamilton have a bye before that final regular season game. So, it would be fascinating if Hamilton can win out, Montreal loses one of their final 2 games, and that last game of the regular season, we touched on it a bit last week on Ticats This Week, but that last game of the regular season is meaningful for the home playoff game. That is going to be so exciting, and really a 2-game playoff series that you don't get in football.
Yeah, I really hope that game comes down to that game, because it's just going to make for a very exciting final week of the regular season. It's very likely in my mind that whoever wins that last game of the season, if it's a game that matters. Now, if it's locked up, I don't, that's totally different. We'll see different personnel, all the rest. If it's a game that matters, the team who wins that last game of the regular season has such a huge advantage. It's almost a compounding effect of advantage going into that first week of the playoffs. So we'll see how that plays off, and I really hope Ottawa and or Edmonton can make a difference here for the Ticats in their efforts against Montreal.
So Tiger Cats know they'll play Montreal in the playoffs. As a player,
yes.
You've been in the locker room, the meeting rooms. Of course, they don't play Montreal until the final game of the regular season, then in the playoffs. Are they studying Montreal right now because they know they're going to meet them?
Not the players. As when you're in the locker room like that, it is truly one at a time. Especially because it's not totally locked up yet. Even so, 3 weeks away, I really don't think that they'd be looking at Montreal, even if the whole thing was set in stone. Even all 3 teams tiered in the playoffs. And the location of the games, I should say, locked in stone. The coaching staff certainly is. They're going to start more as these weeks progress, especially that bye week. They're going to start more and more game planning and looking into the Montreal film. In fact, they're probably doing a little bit of Toronto as well, knowing that if they win against Montreal, they'll be going to the Eastern Final at BMO Field in Toronto. So there's certainly that in the staff. But from the players, amazing as it sounds, and fans, we all love to look forward and to think ahead. It's a 1 week at a time thing as a player. And those guys are thinking about Saskatchewan and thinking about the reality of winning that game and being able to get back, or being able to continue to chase a home playoff game.
So the Tiger Cats, looking at the depth chart, the big one is Bo Levi Mitchell back. Dylan Wynn is also back, and that could be great news for the Tiger Cats if he can stay healthy, and having him back going into the playoffs is massive, isn't it?
Huge. I saw Dylan Wynn after the Calgary game. RJ, he was there was such a look of frustration and anger on his face. Just not because of the game, obviously not because of the game, just because for not having been a part of it on the field. He is so hungry and excited to get back, and it will be fun to watch him. And I just hope that he's healthy and will be there in full force to make a difference in the playoff run, because he is ready to go, and I'm sure we'll notice a difference with him out there.
Yeah, we're both big fans of Dylan Wynn. You played with him. I love watching him, and he's just dominant out there when he's healthy. So hopefully he is 100% healthy. I wanted to talk to you about Tyreek McAllister and really some game-changing returns in the fourth quarter. He's come onto the scene, and he's been always seems to be a couple of guys, at least one guy every year for the Tiger Cats who you don't know at the start of the season, and he certainly wasn't there at the start of the season, but now he's turned into a very important piece.
Absolutely, and it's credit to Drew Alamang and Coach O and all their staff and scouting to find that kind of talent, and he has been a difference maker. I kind of see the Hamilton special teams as McAllister, and of course, any returner will tell you it is a culture of expecting those big plays. Not only the guy with the ball in his hand, Tyreek McAllister, but all 11 guys who are out there functioning the return and getting in the leverage and the body position to spring a return like that. So it's a culture of that offensive attack on special teams, the return game, and then on the flip side of that. Carthel Flowers Lloyd, you have the defensive aspect of the Hamilton Ticats special team as well. And that combination, they've got a big playmaker in my mind. You have a big playmaker on both the offensive and defensive attack of the special teams unit for Jeff Reinbold. And I think it's timely. Those time and again, you see a game-changing special teams event in a playoff game, and it'll end up mattering. And I can almost envision the romance of a big return or a blocked punt or something like that, breaking a game open late in this season here.
Yeah, you mentioned Orlando and Drew, Spencer Zimmerman, Ed Hervey, and so many others, big part bringing the players in. Will Sunderland would be another guy who's been patient. He's waited on that practice roster, or the waiting room, as O likes to call it, and he came into that last game, and they tested him a little bit, but he was definitely noticeable, and he'll start on that boundary corner again.
Well, he could have had 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery in that game, so I think he was making a difference, and he was there and he was in the right position. And I think that you ask a competitor like that, and he'll wish he could have had a couple of those. But I was impressed with his ability to show up at the right moment. And so you're right. That's another guy who I would love to see again with an opportunity to maybe convert some of those interceptions and make even a bigger impact.
Jake Dolegala's the quarterback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. He's a tall guy. He's had a good season. The push is on for the Roughriders. They're going to be desperate to get a victory. They want to clinch a playoff spot. You know Jake pretty well. What can you tell us about him?
Yep, same high school here south of Buffalo, St. Francis High School. Jake, when I was training, maybe my last, the second half of my career, off-season training here, STA with Ben Woods is where we would train in the south towns of Buffalo, and Jake and I were together. And so I remember long days in cold Buffalo winter in an unheated indoor but unheated turf field, and Jake and I throwing and talking. And at the time, those guys, he was getting ready to go to some NFL camps. He was getting ready. He was looked at, being scouted, and getting ready for the draft and pro days and all that kind of stuff. And I remember talking to him about the CFL, and he's those young guys are trying to get ready for an NFL camp, and I'm running waggles in the routes, because I'm getting ready for a CFL season. And that's just funny, but we trained together, and he's a really, really a great guy. I mean, a really good person. And I think he's got a world-class arm. I mean, he is a real professional pass thrower and has a career in professional football. So I'm excited to see him play. And Sask has had their struggles, and they've been struggling to find their wins. But he's a young quarterback who I think has a bright future, and I am excited to call the game. And we had literally the same coaches. Jim Kubiak broke all the records, broke all Roger Staubach's records at the Naval Academy. He went to our high school, and he was Jake's throwing coach for a while. I coached with Jim Kubiak as well, and John Chabet. We have a long tied history of our football career, and Jake is doing it, man. I think he's going to have a nice career here.
So, just listening to what you said, Luke, you were Jake's first taste of CFL and being a quarterback and what the receivers do with that waggle you were doing.
In a sense, yes, I have. I played a part in it. Myself and Naaman Roosevelt, another CFL name who also spent time in Saskatchewan out there too, and he and I were Naaman Roosevelt and myself were the ones who were running routes for Jake Dolegala. Yes.
Oh, nice. And he sounds like he's built for CFL playoffs out west if he's used to those cold Buffalo
That's right.
days.
Yes, he knows a thing about some lake effect snow and some windy snowstorms.
James Butler, 58 yards from 1,000. It would be shocking if he didn't get there. What have you thought about his season with the Tiger Cats this year?
Well, of just his own play, just the person of James Butler, really impressed. I think he's a great presence on the team. Strikes me as a guy who you'd like to play alongside of as an offensive lineman or being in the same huddle as a receiver or quarterback. I've just been really impressed watching him. I know you've loved the story of him this season and the interviews with him and stuff, and I just think he's got a good positive energy. And I think there's been some runs where you can really see why he's one of the best in the league. I think we've seen an incredible balance of patience and then explosive movement. Sometimes you have a guy who's just got blazing speed. And he's gonna that type of player is gonna make some plays on his own, but it's the smarts of the patience and the blocking formation, and then your ability to burst that makes the great running backs the way they are. I've really liked watching him. I just think there's been a little bit of hot and cold to the run game in general. We've seen weeks where the Ticats run game is, it's like, you can almost hang your hat on it. It's almost like the A1 choice for this offense. And then there's been weeks where, the production has to come through the air because it's just not happening on the ground. So I hope in these last 3 weeks, along with, we talked about Bo Levi Mitchell sort of feeling it out in these 3 games to get really ready for the playoffs. And I would love to see a very effective, a run game entering the playoffs, and you just never know whether it's Tim Hortons Field or if it's in Montreal. Certainly BMO, you may have some weather to deal with, and then of course the Grey Cup's at Tim Hortons Field, so you're going to be east for the whole Grey Cup playoff run. And any of these 3 places, it might get a nasty day where you're going to have some production on the ground to make a difference.
Or maybe not. It's been 30 degrees in October.
True. I was sweating. Buffalo was exactly 30 yesterday. I was like, oh my heavens. The trees are all orange. The maple leaves are all falling, and I'm like wearing shorts. It's like, what is happening?
It's crazy. Yeah, and you mentioned I've gotten to know James Butler pretty well this year. I love that, he has a big game, and he's on the CFL honor roll or had the most rushing yards in a week, and ask him how he feels. And he's just happy that his mom can be proud of him and tell her coworkers. And for me, my mom was near and dear, so I love that story that he always says, well, my mom will have some stuff she can tell her coworkers, and the big smile on his face. And it's always exciting that he has 2 touchdown celebrations planned for every game. So hopefully he can get into the end zone on Saturday, and we can try to decipher what celebration he's doing. I'm not as cool as you, Luke, so I have to ask him afterwards usually what the celebration was. But you might be able to pick out what he's doing.
I got the one wrong the one time. It was supposed to be like the dodgeball Cobra Vipers or whatever. What is that? Like
yes,
Ben Stiller's thing.
Yeah.
But then I thought it was Thriller. Like Michael or like remember the Titans thing. I couldn't remember. So I wasn't right either. We'll have to get verification from James as to what the actual intent of the celebration was.
Just finally here, Luke, going into the game Saturday against the Roughriders, it's it's desperation for the Roughriders. They need to win. They want to get into the playoffs. They want to clinch that spot. Tiger Cats have clinched, but is there any less motivation for the Tiger Cats going into this game now that they've clinched a playoff spot?
There is something about being backed up into the furthest corner that there is to be backed up in. Like Sask, they have absolutely everything to lose on the one game. So in a sense, yeah, I don't want to understate the desperation that the Roughriders have. If there is any low probability, specialty play, trick play, onside punt, that type of thing, this is the time to do it. And if they get backed up, if we see a 2-score difference, we'll see some craziness. We'll see some no holds bar, go for it on 3rd and 6 type of stuff. So, there's nothing quite like being totally backed up with your backs against the wall. But apart from that, I don't think you're going to see it. You're not going to see a Hamilton team that is, lackadaisical. You're not the Toronto Argonauts. Even Winnipeg and BC have sort of a battle still to see how this season's going to shape out. So, still plenty to play for. And you've got guys like James Butler. You've got guys who want to get that 1,000 yards. You've got Keandre Smith, who's like all of a sudden, on fire and making a big difference. That kind of guy really wants to have a season longer so he can keep on, getting yards and catches and touchdowns. And, we're going to see a very active Hamilton Tiger Cat team. And you never know what a storyline it would be if they're able to, if the dominoes can fall in such a way that ends up in a Tim Hortons Field semifinal.
All right, that's it for Ticats this week. Luke, awesome job. Can't wait to see you Saturday and call this game against the Roughriders.
Looking forward to it, RJ. See you there.
So 6 o'clock Eastern time, the Ticats Audio Network will have the pregame show with Bubba O'Neill and Andy Fantus, and Luke and I will have the call. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock. Hope you can join us on the Ticats Audio Network.
It's been another busy week for your Hamilton Tiger Cats. Luke Tasker and RJ Broadhead have covered it all, and now we would like to hear from you. Email us anytime at gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.